Hi everyone, welcome to today's class where we will explore one of the foundational theories in psychology, Sigmund Freud's psychoanalytical theory of personality. Freud's idea on the structure of the mind, the nature of personality, and the mechanisms that shape our behaviors have laid the groundwork for much of modern psychology. Although some of his ideas are now considered controversial, Freud's work remains influential and has shaped therapeutic practices and our understanding of the human mind. In this video, we will go over the major aspects of Freud's theory, starting with a brief introduction to Freud himself. Then, we will cover his model of the mind, the structure of personality, and key concepts such as libido and fixation. We will also dive into his psychosexual stages of development, the defense mechanism he described, and finally, Freud's impact on psychology and some of the criticisms of his work. This will give you a solid foundation in Freud's approach, setting the stage for later videos on other personality theories. Now, let us get started. Let us start by learning more about Sigmund Freud, who was born in 1856 in what is now the Czech Republic. Freud initially trained as neurologist, and his early work focused on treating patients with neurological disorders. However, he soon became more interested in the human's mind, deeper, often hidden elements, which led him to develop psychoanalysis, a therapeutic approach aimed at uncovering repressed memories, desires, and thoughts that influence behavior. Freud spent most of his career in Vienna, Austria, where he wrote prolifically about the unconscious, repressed memories, and human development. His work became increasingly influential worldwide, although he faced considerable criticism from some parts of the scientific community for his emphasis on sexuality and controversial ideas on childhood development. In 1938, Freud and his family fled to London to escape Nazi persecution, as Freud was Jewish. He continued working in England until his death in 1939. Despite the controversies surrounding some of his theories, Freud's contribution to psychology and psychiatry remained foundational, especially in our understanding of the unconscious mind. Now, let us look at Freud's model of the mind. One of Freud's key contributions is his model of the mind, which he divided into three distinct levels: the conscious, the subconscious, which is also called the preconscious, and the unconscious. The conscious mind. This level includes everything we are aware of at any given moment: our thoughts, perceptions, and immediate sensations. It is the smallest part of the mind, only representing what we are actively focusing on. The subconscious mind, which is also called the preconscious mind, contains thoughts and memories that are not in our immediate awareness but can be easily recalled when needed, like remembering a phone number or an event from yesterday. Then there is the unconscious mind. This is the largest and most powerful part of the mind, according to Freud. It stores our most primitive desires, fears, memories, and experiences, many of which are unpleasant or traumatic and have been repressed. Freud believed that these hidden elements have a significant impact on our behavior and personality. Freud argued that much of human behavior is influenced by these unconscious drives, which are largely shaped by childhood experiences. This structure is foundational in Freud's psychoanalytic theory, where understanding a person's unconscious mind is seen as crucial to understanding their behavior. Now, to help us understand Freud's view of the mind, let us take a look at this image of an iceberg. Freud used the metaphor of an iceberg to illustrate the layers of the mind. Starting at the top, we have the conscious level. This is the part of our mind above the water, representing our thoughts and perceptions. It is what we are actively aware of at any given moment. For example, right now, you are consciously focusing on learning about Freud's theory. Just below the surface is the subconscious level, sometimes called the preconscious. This layer contains memories and stored knowledge that are not in our immediate awareness but can be accessed if needed. Imagine trying to recall the name of an old friend or an event from childhood. It is not on the top of your mind, but you can bring it up if you think about it. Finally, we reach the unconscious level, the largest and the deepest part of the iceberg, hidden beneath the surface. This is where Freud believed our fears, violent motives, unacceptable desires, irrational wishes, shameful experiences, and selfish needs are stored. These unconscious elements are not easily acceptable to our conscious mind, but can influence our behavior, thoughts, and emotions without us even realizing it. Freud argued that many of these feelings and impulses are repressed, kept out of our awareness because they may be distressing or socially unacceptable. For Freud, the unconscious mind is like a vast reservoir of hidden thoughts and desires that can shape our behavior in powerful ways, often without our direct awareness. It is this hidden part of the mind that Freud focused on in his work, as he believed that bringing these unconscious elements to consciousness could help people deal with repressed emotions and psychological conflicts. So, the iceberg metaphor gives us a visual way to understand Freud's idea that much of our mind operates below the surface out of conscious awareness. In this way, Freud's theory highlights the complexity and depth of the human mind. Now, let us move on to the structure of personality given by Freud. Freud proposed that our personality is structured in three parts: the id, ego, and superego. Let us break down each component. The id is the primal, unconscious part of our personality. It operates according to the pleasure principle, seeking immediate gratification of our desires and impulses, without any consideration for logic, morals, or consequences. Freud described it as being driven by libido, or a life force energy, which fuels our basic desires and instincts. Next, there is the ego. The ego develops as we grow and serves as the rational part of our personality. It operates according to the reality principles, balancing the desires of the id with the demands of the external world. The ego works to find realistic ways to satisfy the id's desires in a socially acceptable manner, acting as the mediator between the id and superego. The superego is the moral component of our personality. It embodies our values, conscience, and the rules we are internalized from society and parents. It strives for perfection and judges the ego's actions, often creating feeling of guilt when we deviate from our moral standards. Now, together, these three structures constantly interact, with the ego navigating the id's demand and the superego's moral constraints. Freud believed that a healthy personality is one where the ego effectively manages this balance, preventing the person from becoming overly impulsive or overly rigid. Now let us look at the key concept in Freud's theory. Freud introduced several important concepts in his theory. Let us cover a few key terms. Libido. Freud defined libido as a life force energy that drives the id's desires, mainly for pleasure and survival. Though often associated with sexual desire, Freud saw libido as a broader energy that also drives our need for connection, creativity, and self-preservation. Next, fixation. Fixation occurs when a person remains stuck in a particular stage of psychosexual development due to unresolved conflicts or unmet needs. For example, if someone experiences frustration during the oral stage, they may develop an oral fixation, which could manifest in habits like smoking or overeating in adulthood. This frustration in oral stage basically happens when a baby's need for an oral stimulation and satisfaction are not adequately met. For example, if a baby does not receive enough feeding, whether breast or bottle, they might feel a sense of unmet needs and frustration. This creates a desire for oral satisfaction that was not fully fulfilled during this stage. Here, we should know that overfeeding or indulging the baby too much can also lead to fixation. When a baby is fed for too long than the desired duration, the baby is overindulged. Then they might develop a dependency on oral pleasures as they associate them with comfort and security. The fixation can also happen when feeding is done in an inconsistent or in a stressful feeding environment. For example, if the mother or say the caregiver is anxious or frustrated during feeding, the infant may associate oral activities with stress. This can lead to frustration because their experience of oral pleasure becomes unpredictable and mixed with anxiety. Fixation can also happen when children are deprived of oral stimulation. Beyond just food, infants often explore the world by putting objects in their mouth. If a child is restricted from this type of oral exploration, they might feel a sense of deprivation and frustration with this unfulfilled urge. Freud's concept of libido and fixation are fundamental to his theory of personality, as he believed that these unconscious forces play a significant role in shaping behavior. Now, let us move on to Freud's psychosexual stages of development. Freud proposed that personality develops through a series of stages focused on different erogenous zones known as the psychosexual stages of development. Freud believed that conflicts or fixations at any of these stages could lead to lasting effects on an individual's personality. Let us discuss each stage one by one. The oral stage, which is 0 to 1 year. This stage focuses on pleasure centered around the mouth. Infants explore the world by putting things in their mouth, which Freud saw as a way of getting comfort and gratification. If a child encounters frustration at this stage, perhaps by stopping breastfeeding early, they may develop oral fixation in adulthood. This could manifest as habits like smoking, nail biting, or overeating, where they are still seeking satisfaction orally. Next, the anal stage, which is 1 to 3 years. During the anal stage, children learn to control bodily functions, primarily through Toilet training. Freud believed this stage centers on a conflict between biological urges and societal expectations for control and order. If this stage needs are not met in balanced way, it can lead to adult behaviors associated with control and organization. For example, if a person fixated at this stage might become overly tidy and perfectionistic, often called anal retentive, or alternatively, they might become overly messy or disorganized, which is called anal expulsive. Next is the phallic stage, which is 3 to 6 years. The phallic stage is known for Oedipus complex in boys and Electra complex in girls. Let me simplify this to you. The Oedipus complex, which is in boys. According to Freud, in the Oedipus complex, a young boy begins to feel a sense of attachment and affection towards his mother. As he becomes aware of his father's relationship with his mother, the boy might start to feel jealous or even resentful of his father, as he sees his father as a rival for his mother's attention and affection. In other words, he subconsciously wants his mother's attention all to him. Next is the Electra complex, which is in girls. The Electra complex is a similar idea, but it applies to young girls. Now we all know the psychologist Carl Jung. He was the student of Freud. And Carl Jung, he coined the term Electra complex, inspired by Freud's theories. In this complex situation, a young girl may develop feelings of attachment and affection towards her father and feel jealous of her mother for being close to him. Next is the latency stage, which is 6 years to puberty. In this stage, Freud believed that sexual feelings are less prominent, allowing children to focus on developing social skills, intellectual pursuits, and friendships. This stage serves as a period of social and emotional growth, preparing them for the complexities of adult life. Next is the genital stage, which is puberty onwards. This final stage, starting in adolescence, involves a shift towards mature sexual interest. The libido or life force becomes more focused on relationships outside the family. Freud considered successful navigation of this stage as essential for achieving a well-rounded adult personality. Freud believed that unresolved conflicts at any stage could leave a person fixated on that stage behavior, resulting in certain personality traits or behaviors that may cause psychological distress. Another essential part of Freud's theory involves defense mechanism. Psychological strategies are ego uses to manage anxiety, stress, or internal conflict. Freud believed that defense mechanisms are ways the mind protects itself from uncomfortable emotions or memories, often by distorting reality. Let us look at a few of these mechanisms in more detail. Repression. Repression is the mind's way of blocking distressing memories or thoughts from entering the conscious mind. For example, someone who experienced a traumatic event in childhood might repress those memories, making it difficult for them to recall the detail as an adult. Next, denial. This mechanism involves refusing to acknowledge an uncomfortable reality. For example, a person diagnosed with a serious illness might deny its severity to avoid feeling scared or overwhelmed. Next is the projection. Projection occurs when individuals attribute their own undesirable feelings or thoughts onto someone else. For example, someone who is angry might accuse others of being rude rather than acknowledging their own anger. Next, rationalization. Rationalization is making excuses for behaviors or feelings that might otherwise be seen as inappropriate. For example, a student who doesn't get into a desired college might rationalize by saying something like, "I did not really wanted to get into that college anyway." Freud believed that these defense mechanisms are crucial to managing anxiety and maintaining mental balance, though they can become maladaptive if overused. Now, let us discuss on Freud's influence and criticisms. Freud's contribution to psychology are vast and varied. He pioneered the exploration of the unconscious mind, developed psychoanalysis as a therapeutic approach, and laid the groundwork for understanding childhood's role in adult personality. His ideas have influenced fields from psychotherapy to art and literature. However, Freud's work has also faced significant criticism. Some critics argue that his theories lack scientific evidence, rely too heavily on sexuality, and are based on outdated, culturally biased assumptions. Additionally, many of Freud's ideas are difficult to empirically test, making them challenging to support or disapprove through scientific research. Despite the criticisms, Freud's theories continue to be studied, debated, and developed. His ideas have spurred the growth of other psychological perspectives and helped shape the field in ways that have extended far beyond the confines of psychoanalysis. In many ways, Freud's influence on psychology is as much about the questions he raised as the answer he proposed. So that was all on today's class on Sigmund Freud's psychoanalytical theory of personality. I hope you liked the video. Please let me know in the comment section. Like, subscribe, and share. Thank you for watching and see you in the next class.